Fast and Furious dropping the real Dominic Toretto after one movie is why Vin Diesel's franchise has lasted 24 years. When the first Fast and Furious movie came out in 2001, no one could have imagined it would become the long-running franchise that it did. That's because the franchise now is not what the first movie presented, and much of that comes thanks to the changes made to the lead character, Dominic Toretto. The first movie had Vin Diesel portray Dom as a criminal, a street racing thief who used his driving skills to steal from truck drivers delivering goods. Paul Walker starred as Brian O'Connor, the LAPD officer sent undercover to stop him. When the movie came out, fans loved the car action and the relationship between Dom and Brian. However, the film was criticized for being a carbon copy of the classic Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze movie Point Break, which had the same plot but substituted surfing for street racing. Diesel left the franchise and didn't return as a main cast member until the fourth movie, Fast and Furious, in 2009, where Dominic Toretto was a completely different character. That change is why the Fast and Furious franchise is still going after 10 movies. When The Fast and the Furious came out in 2001, it was a movie that featured an illegal street racer named Dominic Toretto, who led a gang of thieves to daredevil heist attempts using their incredible driving skills. The LAPD sent young police officer Brian O'Connor undercover to try to bring the criminal group down. However, along the way, Brian and Dom became friends, which made things hard when he had to do the right thing and arrest his friend for his criminal activities. He ended up letting Dom go. This led to the next sequel in the franchise, which focused on Brian, now a fugitive on the run from the police after aiding Dom in his escape. The third movie arrived without Brian or Dom, and it looked like the franchise was headed for DTV territory. However, what happened next changed the franchise's trajectory as Brian and Dom returned in the fourth movie, Fast and Furious. Dominic Toretto was no longer a criminal looking for his next heist, and Brian was now an FBI agent. The fourth movie starts with Dom still pulling heists, including an incredible hijacking of fuel tankers in the Dominican Republic. However, it soon changes to show Dom is out for justice, avenging Letty's death and giving up on his criminal pursuits. The first movie showed Dom having a lot of pent-up trauma from his past, but the franchise mostly glossed that over outside of introducing Dom's brother in later films. Instead, Dom became a superhero and decided he was meant to bring down bad guys. The first three movies had one thing in common. They were all about illegal street racers getting involved in things way over the characters' heads and having to get out of them through their impressive driving skills. Even in the first movie, which saw Dom leading a heist gang of street racers, it was all about driving, car stunts, and getting out of messes with intricate maneuvers. That worked for the short term, but that never could have carried a franchise to 10 movies like Fast and Furious has achieved. Taking notes from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Vin Diesel realized he needed to do something bigger to keep his franchise going. Illegal street racing was still a part of later movies, and the car stunts never stopped. However, Dominic had to go from being a common criminal with top-notch driving skills to a superhero in his own right. The Fast and Furious car stunts got more ridiculous as the franchise moved on, making this more of a fantasy action movie franchise than anything the first three movies showed. Cars fly off cliffs, catch a bungee, and whip back onto a road. There was even a moment when two drivers flew their vehicle into outer space to knock out a satellite and somehow made it back to Earth, in their car, alive. Dominic Toretto became a virtual superhero, and while this didn't start in Fast and Furious, that was where his character began to build the attributes needed to carry this franchise over the top and make it a massive success. In Fast X, Vin Diesel helped lead Dominic Toretto to the extreme as a superhero hellbent on saving his family and the world. The film was a revenge movie, with Toretto seeking to bring down Dom in revenge for the death of his father.